Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Of course, you see my getup today. That only means one thing, that I am going to be talking about the latest from legendary filmmaker David Fincher, The Killer, starring Michael Fassbender, which reunites Fincher with writer Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven. And this time they're telling a story of this cold-hearted, meticulous hitman and essentially his tale for revenge after a job gone wrong. Pretty simple premise, right? But I think the way that these two explore this character is, I wouldn't say anything, but it's definitely much deeper than a lot of people have been giving this film credit for. And I really don't understand because, well, to some extent I do, but look, there's a lot to be found in this very methodical, expertly crafted character study, because that's essentially what this is. As Michael Fassbender's titular killer, his whole approach to his killings is so contradicting to what his own personal mantras are. Like, he's repeating stuff throughout the entire movie, and I love the narration in this overall, because it really cues you into the mindset of this killer, as flawed as his execution may be of said ideas. There's a certain point in the film where he has this acronym, and it's WWJWBD, which is what would John Wilkes Booth do? And it's like, what? And I just love the very dark sense of humor that's kind of permeated through a lot of these, monologues that he gives in a very subtle way. It doesn't scream that right out to you that it is a satire, but I think if you look back and think a bit closer on it, it definitely is. But it doesn't detract from the story at all. It actually adds to this whole exploration that they are, because this guy is literally a walking contradiction. He says everything has to be perfect. I can't feel any empathy. And then he goes and does things that are completely in contrast with that. And I think that's what I really love about this film. And Michael Fassbender's performance, I mean, this guy's into racing now, I guess, so he hasn't been doing as much acting lately. But this guy is a masterful actor. I mean, he's proven himself time and time again, and he's such a physical actor too, and you really get that sense of physicality all throughout this film. But even just his face, there's a coldness to it, and a mystery that makes this killer such a believable protagonist, and that's why I love following this film, seeing what this guy will do, because to be quite honest, I was conflicted at certain points with his character at first, but I think you're supposed to be, right? Because he isn't supposed to be a relatable guy. I mean, this guy literally goes out of his way and kills people for a living. That should say a lot right there. But of course, we like following characters with codes of ethics, and in the way he's so detail-oriented, very much like Fincher. In the way he's explaining all these things, like he goes to McDonald's for protein, and he's giving these statistics, and how, his impact on something would have no play into that overall statistic. It's really, really intriguing to watch, and quite riveting for most of this movie. And I just love, because they don't give him any name, but every time he goes, when he's bouncing between countries and hops on a flight, he gives some name of a 60s or 70s sitcom father. Every time it happened, I was just laughing my ass off. It was just so funny, because I knew it was going to happen every time, but it was just a delightful little bit of humor in this film that is very drab, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because it's supposed to be cold and calculating, just like the character himself. And yet again, you can see why Fincher was kind of drawn to this project, because that's how he is as a filmmaker. Everything has to go right. So in a way, he's kind of poking fun at himself, but in a way that doesn't feel like it detracts from the story, but more so adds to it. And my goodness, there's this one sequence in this movie. I mean, all the sequences are really, really great, just seeing how he goes about setting up certain kills, on this tale of revenge. But there's one scene in particular that is one of the best action scenes I have seen all year. One of the best in a long time, and maybe the best in a David Fincher film. It is just so blue-knuckled in a way that feels very raw and visceral and real, and I absolutely loved it. You'll know what scene I'm talking about. But yet again, you know, you see the lengths at which this guy goes to finish this job that is in direct conflict with what he is all about. And, you know, he says there is no luck. He's saying all this kind of stuff like, I have to act on instinct, you know. But yet, every single time, he ends up in a situation where he ends up getting lucky and escaping. Or things just don't go according to plan, which is most of the scenarios that he gets to in this film without spoiling it. And I really just was very, very entertained and enthralled for most of this movie. I will say near the end, I think it loses a bit of steam. And some of the scenes I was wondering, I'm like, this just seems very anticlimactic. And perhaps that was the point, but I think the ending of this film seems a bit too abrupt for its own good. Look, I mean, this isn't... You're not going to walk out of this thinking it's one of Fincher's masterpieces. You're not even going to walk out even thinking it's one of his best films, for the most part. I can understand anyone loving this movie, but I can also understand someone not being into this as much as his other works. But still, it's expertly crafted. The sound design is quite spectacular, the way, because the main character, he listens to music, mainly the Smiths. This is just an entire track full of Morrissey singing into your ears. And it was kind of awesome the way these songs are utilized. And I just think, yet again, kind of funny saying that he's like such a cold killer. He's listening to the Smiths of all bands. But anyway, you hear how the sound design cuts in and out from the diegetic world surrounding this character and his own diegesis with the headphones. It's really impressive stuff like that. The Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score, it doesn't leap out at you except in like the very beginning, but it's kind of droning through the film, and it's ever so present throughout this entire narrative. And I absolutely love the direction from Fincher, as to be expected. And the thing I love about Fincher's direction in this is how tensely these scenes are directed. Especially the first chunk of this film. There's this whole amazing chase sequence, which is just so articulate and so to the point, but just so unbelievably thrilling to watch on screen. And it's stuff like that that I think makes The Killer rise above just your standard, cold hitman fare that we've seen time and time again. The editing is phenomenal. You could say so many things about this movie that work, but I just don't think everybody is going to hop on the wavelength of The Killer, and that's completely fine. You know, it's not going to be for everybody, but I myself really, really enjoyed this. I think it's another solid addition into David Fincher's filmography, and I'm going to give The Killer an 8 out of 10. Yet again, it's on Netflix, so you have to check it out. If you're a fan of David Fincher, you absolutely have to. I think in the description, I'm going to link a list of the Fincher films that I, love the most so far that I've seen. And that will be something for you to check out if you like. But yeah, and yet again, what a great week for Michael Fassbender, because, of course, my next review is going to be Taika Waititi's latest Next Goal Wins, which I did see at TIFF. Also starring Fassbender, so, between the past couple of weeks, this guy doesn't do work for years, and then we get an abundance of him here. But, of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you like this review. In particular, would appreciate the support. As I said, what the next review is, and there's going to be more coming very soon to this channel, so please stay on the lookout for that. Until the next video, I'll see you guys later. Peace.